Hi, my name is Inisa Melendez, and I'm going to be giving my speech, Burnout and Biopsies, about burnout amongst healthcare workers. In 1974, a psychologist, theorist, and practitioner named Freudenberger explained and defined burnout officially. He defined it as something that you feel the symptoms over a long period of time. They vary from person to person, but it all comes down to the same reasons why. It's you experiencing anger, irritability, guilt, frustration, anxiety, depression, and most of all, lack of passion, which is the main key in diagnosing burnout, is lack of passion in things that you originally loved. This can be for many reasons, including violence in the workplace, bullying in the workplace, hospitals and healthcare offices being understaffed, nurses and healthcare workers being overworked and hardly compensated for it, as well as the mental and emotional toll that comes with working around sickness and death all the time, as well as diseases that will never be recovered from. From working in the healthcare field myself, I have talked to many people of different scopes of practice, and started to realize how prevalent this was, how tired people get, and how excited they are to just have a day off. When I originally started working in healthcare, no matter how hard the day got, I was very excited. Very soon, I did realize how often I was leaving work absolutely mentally exhausted and unable to do anything else throughout my day because of how draining it was. And talking to many others, many workers in healthcare also experience this. And it's considered burnout, which happens very early amongst most healthcare workers, but it can always be recovered from. First, we're going to discuss violence in the workplace. This can be verbal and psychological abuse. It could be physical abuse. It could be sexual abuse. In a article published by Elsevier, it's described as an aggression when staff members are abused, intimidated, or attacked in circumstances related to work, including commuting to and from work, involving explicit or implicit challenge to their safety, well-being, and health. I first experienced this recently, within the last week, and it was something I never thought I would experience. And we had a patient who came both at me and a physician's assistant. He was almost blaming the healthcare system for his diagnosis. His wife was in the room during the whole thing and kept explaining that, the toll that his diagnosis is taking on his mental health has caused him to take it out on everybody else, specifically the nurses, medical assistants, and physicians that have been assisting him. When this happens, it's proven to increase anxiety and depression, as well as guilt amongst healthcare workers. Many healthcare workers will leave the field with severe symptoms, even PTSD symptoms. Most people would agree that, taking this into account, that healthcare workers would get compensated more for how much they deal with throughout the day. But the healthcare field is also struggling to keep up with the rising cost of living, just like every other field and just like every other career. Now we will talk about how hospitals and medical offices are being understaffed, and nurses and healthcare workers who are working insane hours aren't being correctly compensated. In recent years, specifically in America, we've been dealing with a nursing shortage. This all happened around COVID time, when many people were getting sick, many people were dying, and hospitals were completely packed. This almost caused the complete collapse of our healthcare system. Many practicing nurses were working even longer hours and there was no extra compensation available. In many fields where healthcare workers continued to take on new duties, take on wider scopes of practice, you would think they would be getting extra compensation and fair raises when really they're getting the minimum raise possible. And some are barely making what is needed to survive in this time. Currently, 1 in 4 nurses report planning to leave the profession by 2027, and we're going to have an even bigger nurse shortage and healthcare workers shortage than we had before, and one of the main causes is burnout and lack of compensation. They use the phrase overworked and underpaid. Working in healthcare can bring a lot of joy and fulfillment to people, as it has for me. Feeling like you're making a difference and saving people's lives, but there is always a darker side to healthcare that's full of grief and loss, and it takes a big toll on all healthcare workers' mental health. Finally, I'm going to be speaking on the emotional and mental workload of healthcare workers. Sickness and loss in these fields is inevitable. Everybody's going to see it at some times. We work with geriatric patients, mentally ill patients, terminally ill patients, and in critical care and emergency rooms. Healthcare workers are advised often not to get too attached to patients. But when you see those same routine patients almost every day, weekly, or even monthly, you do grow to care for your patients. You even start to consider some family. If that's not the case, then a lot of these people reflect us. They have families, they have kids, they have spouses that care for them greatly. You see people caring for their older sick parents, and it hits close to home because a lot of us have to deal with this or will eventually have to deal with this. Many patients are under high stress, and so are the families of these patients. And there's many times where healthcare workers get questions that they're not able to answer, and almost get the blame put on them for why these families are going through these things. It can get very dark and difficult to work on that side of healthcare. It's not sunshine and rainbows all the time. A lot of the time, your favorite patient will be there one day and then will be coding the next day, and you may never see them again. And then you have to see the family react to that, and it makes you question if what you're doing is actually making a difference. Many nurses report feeling guilt when they lose a patient, even though they did absolutely everything they can. Even if the patient was terminally ill or in their 90s. Nurses and doctors even will report feeling frustration, guilt, confusion,